Today, we will be talking about modular and prefabricated building systems, and it will be presented by one of our lecturers at EIT and course coordinator as well for civil engineering. And her name is Dr. Anna Evangelista. And before I will endorse you to her, let me go ahead and also inform you for a few things. So, if you would like to have a copy of the slides and the video recording of this webinar, we will be sending it to your email within the next 2 business days. So please monitor your inbox, including your junk folder. And we will also be providing a free digital certificate of attendance for live attendees for technical topics like this. So we will be sharing a QR code and a link later on after the presentation so that you can request for your webinar certificates. And please note that you really need to request the certificate because if you don't, then there will be no certificate that will be prepared and sent to you because we need your full name and your other details for the certificate. So it's important to make the request using the link or the QR code that we will be providing later. And we will be sending out the certificates to your email as well within the next 4 business days. And please allow me to introduce EIT as well to everyone. So as you know that our institute is named Engineering Institute of Technology or EIT, and we are dedicated to ensuring that our students would receive a world-class education and would gain skills that you can immediately implement in the workforce when you go out there in the real world. And also, we are tagged as an engineering specialist. We are one of the only institutes in the whole world specializing in engineering. So, as you can see, if you browse our websites, we don't have any other courses like architecture or any of that sort. We only focus on engineering courses. And we have a variety of courses for you to choose from. We have professional certificates, diplomas, advanced diplomas, undergraduate and graduate certificates, and also we have higher education courses like bachelor's, master's, and a doctor of engineering degree as well. And our programs are industry oriented and they are designed by our industry experts just like Dr. Anna here, and that is our way to ensure that you graduate with cutting edge skills and you will be valued by your employers as well. And the content of our program remains current with our rapidly changing technology and industry developments. Aside from that, we also have a world class Australia accredited education, so our vocational programs and higher education degrees are registered and accredited by the Australian government. And we also have programs that are also recognized under the three international engineering accords by Engineers Australia. And those are the Washington Accord, the Sydney Accord, and the Dublin Accord. Also, we have industry experienced lecturers, and they are highly experienced in the field, and they are also subject specialists with applied knowledge as well. And the technologies employed by EIT for both online and on campus studies enable us to source our lecturers from a large global pool of expertise. We are also proud of our unique delivery model, and our programs are also delivered through a unique delivery methodology that makes use of live and interactive webinars. And we also have an international pool of expert lecturers, as mentioned previously. And we also have dedicated learning support officers. And this is something unique to EIT because we make sure that we have one dedicated for each course for a certain intake so that our students would have a go-to person, a constant go-to person to assist them with all their concerns and needs during their stay or study at EIT. Aside from that, we also have state-of-the-art such as hands-on workshops and remote laboratories and simulation software where you can also still have a close to real life experience when you do your applications. So that's it about EIT. I hope that you will take these information into consideration when you want to study an engineering course. Thank you so much for your time, everyone, for knowing more about EIT. And this time, I will be letting Dr. Anna introduce herself and go on with the presentation proper.
Thank you very much, Lisa, for your great introduction. Yeah, here it's just some my information about me. I'm a civil engineer. I have been working at the academia for more than 20 years. I also have been working with on destructive tests to evaluate concrete structures. At the moment, I'm teaching at the IT. I'm also course coordinator, and I'm also supervising bachelor's degree, master students, and also doctorate candidates. So I think that's enough from me. And yeah, now I think we can start our webinar. I think this is an amazing topic and very important nowadays. Lisa, do I take control now? Yeah. So thank you all. Lisa, can you hear me?
Yes, I
Okay.
can hear you pretty
So
well.
the slides is clear on your end? So thank you all for joining today. The main idea about this topic under the big umbrella of prefabrication and modular construction is just to explore the current trends and what in terms of the new technologies in different countries. But I will be focused on Australia and some previous work when we compared China market and Australian market. So we will start talking about modern construction. I'd like to hear from you, your understanding in terms of what is modern construction for you. Then, as I mentioned, we're gonna share some information about Australia and China. And this is the 1 million question. Why or why not prefabrication or modular construction? Then I will be more than happy to share with you some case studies and also some site visits that we have done here in Australia, and then some final considerations. And I open to the floor questions for you. If you want to ask any questions, should be great at the end. So let's start with this big umbrella, modern construction. As you know, the construction sector, we are very traditional, if you agree with me. And now what we are targeting, we are targeting to incorporate new technologies, in different countries. So depends on the type of construction techniques you have in your country. We can make it more efficient. That's why today I think one of the main points is to understand the difference between traditional construction and when you talk about prefabrication and modular construction, digitization, all these new technologies coming. It's the main challenge is how we adopt these new technologies in our daily basis duties and activities in our engineering, constructions, and architecture sector. So what we think about this is what we're gonna be exploring today, pretty much to understand how we can be capable as an engineer and as an architect or as a construction professional to adopt and embrace these new technologies, and gradually our industry will be changing to a more modern industry. That's why we try to say like this: modernize or die. This is this line on the construction area and sector. So moving on, the main point about this webinar, as I mentioned at the very beginning, is to understand the current trends regarding the modular and prefab. So In Australia, we still consider the market is relatively small when we compare with Europe or Japan. So, and that's why, first of all, we need to understand the barriers and why even the small medium business are not adopting prefabrication in such a way that they could offer the final product in a more effective way, how can enhance productivity, how they can minimize the costs, for example. So we can, during this webinar, we discuss the advantage when you are working with prefabrication and modular construction, but at the same time, we need to understand the limitations, right? And I will ask you your help during this webinar. And yeah, China, there is no doubt in terms of the huge marketing when you think about prefabrication and modular construction. And another point nowadays is you have these new technologies, such as build information modeling, digital twins. We have so many facilities nowadays that we didn't have in the past. So in terms of the coordination of the projects, so more and more, I think it's when you think about this umbrella modern construction, we can combine, the digital technologies and with the activities that you could put in practice on site. Because sometimes you think that we are talking about totally different words when you think about office and when you think about construction sites. I think more integration is needed in order to, at our final product, it doesn't matter if it's a building, a house, or a bridge, how to construct this in a more efficient way, right? We know productivity is one of the main challenges in our industry. And that's why you, as engineers, architects, or construction professionals, we need to be qualified in order to support our industry to progress, right? To become more modern when we compare with other industries. So this is the main point. So, and here, as you can see, we try to summarize some important points when you talk about prefabrication. The advantage. Here are some results from the literature and from some surveys we have conducted over the last year. And majority of it's kind of common sense. When you talk about prefabrication, there are some advantages regarding cost and time, environmental impacts. That is something that we cannot, definitely we cannot ignore. It's becoming more and more important in order to at least address some United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and safety, quality, right? And quality control. These are the main factors we can consider when you need to make a decision if you're gonna continue working with the traditional methods or when you can incorporate some prefab in our projects. So some positive points, as you can see here, some results showed 19% of cost saving can be considered when we adopt prefabrication. Also, not only cost, but in some projects, some case studies, they could demonstrate a huge time saving, in terms of 34%, as you can see here. From other researchers, we could see 100% of waste reduction in plastering, reduction in terms of the timber formwork, reduction in waste from concreting and steel reinforcement. So minimizing waste generated in our construction site, it's also another positive side. As much as possible, we are trying to reduce the amount of construction and demolition waste just when you just need to send it to landfill. Here, I think we have some good numbers. I think we all enjoy to have a clear idea about what's happening here. And this is retrieved from a survey conducted, and is a report presented here in Australia, when you can see the significant market in Australia. So, and here is one of the examples of modular construction. This is the best pods. And yeah, and in different countries, you have the major players, let's say the tier one companies. So here we can see there is a trend in terms of the growth into this market. And especially here in Australia, not sure if you all are aware, but not only in Australia, but other countries, when we face some housing crisis, all these alternatives come on board, right? And prefabrication can be one of the potential solutions when you are under these situations such as housing crisis. And yeah, the marketing, the main expectations is the increase in terms of almost $14 billion by 2029. So it's significant. Another point is we could just cover, just have a look at what's going on here in Australia, but also in China. There's also potential growth, as you can see into these diagrams over the last years. You can just have a look in terms of the concrete prefabricated buildings in China. And here you can also see the major players. I think in terms of the marketing, that's no doubt. In future, I truly believe more and more demand for prefabrication and modular construction will come in our depends on, I'm talking about China and Australia, this is the trend, but I think in Europe and other countries, probably they will follow similar trends. But now we just need to think about why or why not prefabrication. And yeah, I think it's a good reflection for us today. And we can go back and think about the current projects. Let me just ask you, if you are working in a new project, or just at the end, just let me know if your company is keen to work with prefabrication or modular construction. Because here we can see, I will start with advantage, and yeah, it's about the quality control, as we gave you some examples. And here is really, really interesting, because when you talk about prefabrication, precast, there are some different terminologies. As you can see, sometimes we can call it precast concrete, offsite construction, modular construction, but we are talking about how to construct the structural components, or if it's a house, the elements to build a house offsite. And one of the main benefits when you are working in a controlled environment, right? You have the prefab yards. If you are working in a controlled environment, you can have more control regarding the waste generated into this for these projects, let's say, regarding prefab homes. We can see if these homes constructed in a controlled environment, in a prefab yard, all the laborers and engineers, managers can have, let's say, more. This is the main idea at the end, is to ensure that this project will be delivered on time, on budget, and with minimal waste. So I think this is the challenge. Even though when you think about construction management, right, we have the scope, have a cost, and you have a time. So it's always a huge challenge in our hands. Cost accuracy I just imagine that something that happened to all of us. It's very, very common. Initially, we have initial costs in our project, but definitely regarding delays, regarding some rework, or sometimes clashes in our projects, we cannot finish this project according to the initial cost, right? It's almost impossible from uh, my understanding. So high quality tools, and you're gonna have high quality construction. And also we need to think about durability in our sector as well, and more important, safety, right? Because again, you can minimize risk and hazards when you are working in a controlled environment. So this is my initial idea about the advantage. This is pretty much why, if when possible, you can have this option for prefabrication or precast or off-site construction. But now we just need to think about why not. And this is the open question. This is the question that I will ask you to just at the end of this webinar to share with me your own perception. Okay, so why not? Let's have a look at the limitations, right? Even though in a residential sector, when here in Australia, in Sydney, I could visit a yard of construction of prefab homes, and then we could see some limitations regarding the transportation, and yeah, and sometimes the transportation, why it's the big risk, because we have heavier, larger components, and the precision is super important, right? Because at the end you need to assemble this at the final location. So this is the main challenge, right? You have you have this house constructed in a controlled environment, but then you need to transport to the final location. And precision is critical, right, to ensure the final quality of your product. And another limitation is about customization, mainly if you are thinking about the residential sector. So later on, I will be sharing with you. We just, as I mentioned at the very beginning, we could uh, visit some yards in Sydney, and then we just discuss it with engineers and construction managers to understand uh, the, the main barriers to not adopt modular construction or prefab. And yeah, I know that this is more not very, uh, sometimes the layers are very small, but here is just to share with you. This is one of the researchers outcome from the research, when majority of time what we are trying to compare, we need to understand the challenges and the main aspects under this challenge in order to adopt prefabrication. And just for this research, you could see so many challenges. Here we can see the list of 26 challenges. So starting, in this case, starting with some misconceptions, lack of skilled workforce, and cost inefficient. Sometimes it's about the lack of supply, something that you heard from engineers and also construction managers. Why not adopt construction, the prefabrication, more and more prefabrication in the projects, and lifting, as you can see, lifting safety. So, but here, my main idea is just to show you what researchers are doing in this area and the main points that we are trying to understand, because at the end of the day, we all want to our sector, construction sector, to become a modern sector and comparable with the others. Okay. And yeah, this is another point when you talk about prefabrication, is about the prefab systems and the systems available. Yeah, this is the precast. Here we have in 2D, we have the panels, 2D panels. We use it to say that those are non-volumetric systems, but more and more we can see combination of the 2D or 3D when you can see the entire module. So we have pretty much uh, recent projects when in Australia, they have more type of hybrid combination of volumetric and the 2D panels. So here we can see when we have the entire house and in the photos later on, I will see we can observe in the kitchen, all the bathrooms, the toilets, everything is there. You have the entire module. So 3D, we used to say that these are the volumetric systems and they will be transported to the final location and have the final installment. So when we talk about 3D, we can say that around 85% of the work is done in a controlled environment, right? And the factory or the warehouse is, and yeah, when you have the 2D, then we can come up with the volumetric on site. And here more illustration about examples of 2D systems, and 3D is when you have the entire model. But when you combine 2D and 3D, we can have the entire construction done using the prefab elements. So some illustrations for you. And now this is what I mentioned at the very beginning that I'm willing to share with you, like a case study, just gonna pop up everything. In order to understand what's going on in Australia, we started with some interviews, and it's mentioned to understand the limitations and barriers, what we need to do. Get in contact with people in situ, right? Not only from the academia point of view, but people working at the industry. So that's why we started the questions about what do you do, or in terms of type of work you have been done, if you have been involved in a project using prefabrication or not. This maybe you can answer this question. I can go quickly through a survey with you. Can I ask you, have you been involved in a project using prefabricated construction or any offsite construction? Feel free to use the chat box or the questions and answers for me, and then we can, at the end, you can have a look in your answers. Just let me know. Have you been involved in a project using prefab or not? So this is some points that I have here. And then this is in terms of this case study, this is something in Australia. And then, as you know, sometimes we cannot disclose the name of the companies. That's why we call it company A, B, C, and D. Yeah, they were very kind to open the doors, and we could go for a site visit. And we target during this research, we try to understand pretty much the environmental impact aspects. That's why we have here some ideas about recycling waste in a controlled environment. This is the main point, right? Minimize the volume of construction and demolition waste. So in a controlled environment, we suppose that you can reduce the amount of rework. So here we also try to understand in terms of what type of system, if it's modular, I mean volumetric 3D or combination. In this case, company B is a combination of 2D and 3D. When you think about the entire house, definitely this is a clear example of the entire module. And here another company D, combinations, sometimes they could produce. This is the example of the volumetric module. And in terms of the recycling waste, majority of them could just demonstrate and showed us the evidence that the modular in the factories, they can achieve 50% to 75% less waste than the equivalent when you compare with in situ. And here is they just mentioned they could recycle the steel. And another point, very, very important, if you are working in engineering, construction, and architecture sector, it's about the productivity. So for example, here, the company A, they could mention to us 10 projects at a time, 90 to 95% of the building to be finished in the factory, and the remaining 5 or 10% will be carried on site. So building life cycle for this is the house, right? For the house cycle in 1 month. And the other one, building life cycle 21 days in the factory plus 7 days on site. And yeah, so these are some examples just to share with you. And yeah, we have a colleague in China. So he could share with us some example from projects he worked with. So again, same parameters here, recycling waste production rate. Major company A, pretty much panels and 2D system, and other company B working with both 2D and 3D system. So again, in terms of recycling, there is no doubt. Here, some reduction of 40% scrap steel waste, and then reduction in terms of 52% regarding wood, timber waste, and bricks. And here just give us an idea about the water consumption and power consumption when they work with 2D panels and in order to construct, to use in a specific project. And here is about productivity, total construction shortened year 3 months compared with the traditional method. So building life cycle in terms of 1 month. This is the idea for this company. And other parameters that we also need to look at when you are exploring this area, prefabrication and modular constructions. As you can see here in Australia, we also target the quality control type of building materials, construction materials, pretty much the traditional ones, like steel, concrete, timber, aluminum, plastic boards, and also these companies, when they start project, they also have the certification, the ISO regarding quality, environment, and work health and safety. They are accredited. Also, company B mentioned the electrical plumbing performance and codes. So in terms of ensuring that our standards will be observed in a controlled environment, it becomes more evident if you compare with on-site construction. Company C also presented some certification about Green Smart. This is something that is becoming more and more important nowadays. Also, structured fire compliance with the fire resistance standards, and some limitations, just to highlight. Company A, they couldn't share with us any limitations they could not identify. But yeah, company B, the main challenge is about the 2-story homes and transportation. And company D, one of the main challenges mentioned, it was about skilled laborers, right? And in China, same parameters that we try to understand. So certification, the China and in Beijing, they got a pilot project in order to get certification to used in another project. Also, construction period was shortened to a half compared with the traditional buildings. This is what we received from Company B. And building materials, as I mentioned, pretty much the same. There is no challenge to work with new materials. So common sense is about lack of skilled laborers in order to ensure proper installation for this question. And here, the concrete lightweight steel frames, some limitations that double glazed windows, some supply of materials could be pointed as some limitations. I can see questions in our chat box. I will answer your question soon. Okay, it's quite interesting question because I think this is a common confusion. We normally need to understand the terminology, why prefabrication and not modular. Prefabrication, it's all modular constructions could be considered prefabrication, right? Because the construction is off-site. Any construction off-site is prefab, but that is the main point that we normally confuse. Modular constructions, we consider that if it's 2D, it's the entire module, 3D module. If the volumetric module, it was constructed in a yard, it's off-site constructions. And similarly, we have regarding the prefab. So similar concepts. So, and this is to go deeper, I think. We need to understand here in this case, why do you think traditional building methods are dominant over prefab? Our focus at that time, we focused on Australia, but definitely we can open these questions to other countries. Definitely. I think at the end, it depends more or less, but I think it's about the construction sector around the globe. Very traditional sector and some difficult to convince people to embrace new technologies. This is my personal perception, but we need to get the evidence from industry. Okay, so let's have a look at this. Now, some participants, when I asked this question, it was about delays in the production process here in Australia. And also another point is about the resale value. Sometimes, they think about the property market. If I have a prefab house, it's gonna be difficult to me to sell this house in future. This is some of the general ideas we could collect. And I think the critical part is here. We can highlight, I think any other industry is similar. It's about demand. So this person, the participant C, this person mentioned about demand 50% if you compare with traditional. I think it's a great number, 50%. But anyways, they just mentioned that it can be one of the points. The traditional building methods are dominant over prefab. So sometimes site access, external finish, some general ideas we collected from people from industry. But we know that the main point, the positive point, is the prefabrication of larger reduction in terms of saving time and about safety aspects regarding the on-site safety hazards can be reduced a lot, and we can avoid so many accidents and fatal accidents. Here, some other illustration about the biggest reason because traditional way is the way that's always been done. This is what participant A mentioned. So, and people aren't educated on what prefab can provide and the benefits. Sometimes it's another challenge. And here we're going to have all these slides for you to go through in details. I know they have limitations from our side regarding timing. So you leave these results with you. And here we did more analysis trying to compare conventional constructions and prefabrication constructions. And here, as I mentioned at the very beginning, combination of 2D and 3D, this is the hybrid is the most common application. And when you think about conventional types of projects, through these, the type of companies we could interview, majority of them, as you can see here, is from the homes, what we could see, medium, and not very, very fancy or luxury homes. So this is to give you some idea about the type of companies we could interview and people working at these companies, those companies we could interview. And the main points we decided to understand, it was about understanding the main aspects. For example, here it's what are the main benefits. Main benefits, here we have these A, B, C, D. Later on, we're going to have this. Our main parameters, we just try to focus on sustainability, cost, time, but we cannot forget aesthetics, flexibility, and resale value, property market. If you need to convince someone in order to construct a house using the traditional methods and use prefab, you need to think about the resale value and demand. So here we have some outcomes just for the conventional companies, as you can see here. So just to highlight this one, the 48%, it was about cost. What are the main benefits of adopting? People talk a lot about cost benefit here. And the other point, the main disadvantage pointed here. In the second, it was about 44%. It's about the aesthetics aspects, the flexibility in terms of the design. And this we suggest, it seems that all of them suggested if you're going to try prefabrication or not, it's quite difficult. And the other one, the best, do you think the prefab is the best option to overcome the drawbacks of the traditional construction methods? What type of drawbacks? Delays, the cost, amount of waste, rework, and that's why this is quite difficult for us to get a final conclusion because it's 50-50. So there's no final conclusion. And here, similarly, we ask it to the prefab. So sorry about this. This is not 56 is something correct in this diagram, but I give you all these in your slides later on. You're going to have this, okay? To give you, at the end of the day, what we are trying to understand what the different perceptions when you have the traditional companies, when you have the companies 100% working with prefabrication. And yeah, the main benefits adopting prefabrication from the point of view should be and the costs again. Sounds similar. And now we have some more details for you to so many questions that I don't need to go through each of them. You have this available for you soon. And yeah, so this is another site visit from Sydney. Then you have this, it's pretty much 2D, but you can see all the clean environment. This is just to illustrate when you have a safe environment to construct the elements you're gonna use in your construction. I will try to address the questions at the end, okay? Thank you, Lisa, thank you, Cornell. Just a little sound from our site visit to share with you, and this one that I really enjoyed, the the homes and flats. You can see they have all done inside, right? And then you can see the entire kitchen. And then at the end, they just need to put it to the truck. It seems simple, right? Like when you are working with blocks and Lego, and then you can put these at the yard, and then they can transport it to the final location. So, and yeah, here this is a little survey. It's a very just in my survey here is only one question. You can use the QR code, but you can also type into the chat box. Why do you think traditional building methods are dominant over prefab? Now I want to hear from you if it's delays in the production process, if it's about the transportation and logistic issues, or in your country or in your company is about the skilled labor shortage. Can you do this for me? Thank you, Ulysses. If you can go through the QR code, should be great that I can get your results. Durability, Jeremiah. Logistic issues, leaking problem. I would love to hear more from you regarding the questions about durability and leaking problems. I will share my email with you at the end, okay? And I'd love to get your case studies, if you allow me. Okay. Safety and lack of technology. In terms of the standards, I think someone asked about the standards. Yeah, different countries can be the main drawback. Break into my home, the wall, most house, then breaks. And yeah, depends on the material, right? I understand. Leaking problem. Come back over time and developers know existing. That's great, everyone. I just gonna go quickly through. I know that you are on time here. And yeah, I just from this initial research, I can tell you there is much more to be done. And for policy implementation, there are some regions here that I think this is some challenges, even here in Australia. Yeah, about the regulations is still something, and the support from the government, that is something that we could hear as well. Cyclonic conditions depends on, yeah, it's gonna more suitable types of designs and proper elements to be capable to resist against cyclonic conditions. So we got some initial idea from this study regarding has many advantages on site. We know the advantages, it's all there, but limitations regarding project customizations, shortage here in Australia, and more about skilled laborers in Australia, limitations, lack of incentives. I know I mentioned this in the very beginning. We are living a housing crisis here in Australia, and if you watch the news, one of the main solutions is about prefabrication, that you can construct in a fast pace. So yeah, so many points that I think us engineers, architects, and construction professionals can embrace when you talk about prefabrication. And China is using new technologies, that's no doubt, and they in terms of innovations and also incorporate sustainability aspects and automation. This is another point. So there are some barrier that you can point from these studies, and I can add the ones that you mentioned in the chat box. I really appreciate. It's about the design and flexibility, lack of manufacturing techniques and supply. I think regarding local conditions, as Laurent mentioned, cyclonic conditions can definitely need special attention. Education, scarce education regarding techniques, initial capital costs, unwanted risk, current methods remain. Yeah, we need to ensure all these new technologies and are according to the standards, right? Australian current market regarding house affordability and regulatory restrictions we still have here. And as I promised at the end, to have more and more reference in your own time. I encourage you to search more and keep on mention now about safety and durability. I think, yeah, this durability approach, just is my personal opinion. It depends a lot on the type of material selected, and the how this, if you have a company, a prefab company, presenting the proper certificates, the quality certificates, definitely we can be more confident that the durability will not be a problem. But as any other constructions, in my perception, if you don't select proper type of materials, or if you don't have skilled laborers, or it doesn't matter, in my opinion, if it's prefab or traditional method, durability depends on pretty much the responsibility under the engineers, architects, and construction professionals. So, Lisa, I think I am on time. And I'm so glad that you engaged and could share your personal experience. I think this is all about these technical webinars when you can share our personal experience and discuss the challenging topics as we have here today.
Thank you so much for that very informative lecture for us today, Dr. Anna. I'm sure that everyone here learned a lot from that, and there are a lot of comments and interactions in the chat. So that's a really good thing for everyone. Just to double check, I'd like to see if these questions have been answered already. Just go back to that. So
I think
there's a
it's
question
more
here.
in the chat box. I think more in the chat
Yes.
box, Lisa. Yeah.
Yes. So a question here from Regina. She said that do all prefabricated constructions have to be modular?
No, we have, that's why, depends on, you have the panels, and then we can assemble in situ, and then you can construct your 3D model using panels, for example, 2D elements.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for that, Dr. Anna. And I think there was one here as well from Kunal. Does Australia have a separate standard requirements for prefab residential houses?
You have the regulations that we can follow. You will need to follow here in Australia. Yeah, there are regulations available. And sometimes more difficult than when you are working with traditional methods. That's why they mentioned it can be one of the barriers. The regulations are more severe, not more severe, they're more tough when you are working with prefab rather than traditional methods in Australia.
Okay, thank you. And we have one from Richard. Would you consider mini houses, those built from recycled shipping containers, in the sector of prefabricated structures?
This is when you work with the containers, and now I think it's a trend in terms of the tiny houses as well. It is considered any type of construction when you have this done off-site. And then when you could transport it to the final location, we can call it prefabrication or off-site. And modular, and when you have the entire module, like a batty pot, or sometimes when, as I mentioned, when you have the entire house, it's in the volumetric in the 3D model, we can call it a modular.
All right, and let's have some. I think we have one here in the Q&A. Do you? Okay, that's fine. Do we have modular construction for high-rise buildings in Australia? That's from Arno.
It can be used some parts of the high-rise buildings. Yeah, they can with some precast elements. They can, and the facades as well can be some example.
Okay. Thank you so much for answering the question, Dr. Anna. Now, let's move on to the other slides here. So the courses that cover this topic that we have today would be our professional certificate of competency in structural design for non-structural non-structural engineers, and this is our 3-month professional certificate course. We also have an advanced diploma of civil and structural engineering that also covers the topic. We also have our online Bachelor of Science in Civil and Structural Engineering. And we just take control of it here, Dr. Hannah.
Yeah,
to
yeah,
move the
sure.
slides. That's fine. Thank you. And we'd like to also share our similar upcoming courses. They are all related to civil engineering. We have our graduate diploma of civil and structural engineering. We also have our graduate certificate. A graduate diploma will run for 12 months. A graduate certificate will run for 6 months. And they would start on the 24th of June this year. We also have our online Master of Engineering Civil Structural that starts in June 24th as well. And we have our, as mentioned earlier, the Advanced Diploma of Civil and Structural Engineering certificate in Engineering Foundations that will start on the 22nd of July. We also have our undergraduate certificate in civil engineering. So an undergrad certificate is like your first 6 months of your bachelor's degree. And that would start on the 22nd of July as well. And we also have a Doctor of Engineering that can also cater to those who are in the field of civil and structural engineering. That would start on the 22nd of July. And we have our Advanced Diploma of Civil and Structural Engineering for Materials Testing that would start on the 3rd of September, and our Professional Certificate of Competency in Structural Design for Non-Structural Engineers would start on the 1st of October. And if you'd like to know more courses from EIT, you can go ahead and visit our website. That's www.eit.edu.au/study-areas/civil-engineering. And if you'd like to also attend our upcoming webinars, we have our upcoming webinars in our on our website as well. Just go to the events page, and these are the upcoming webinars that we've got. We have insights into our undergraduate programs. We have something for electrical grid monitoring, SCADA systems, and optical communication networks, and a lot more. So just go ahead and visit our webinars page for that. And these webinars are for free as well. For technical webinars, we would also be giving out free certificates. And if you'd like to request for your certificate of attendance for today, please go ahead and scan the QR code that you can see on the screen, or you can use the link that I sent on the chat box. Just click the link and register for your certificate request. All right. So I'll give you like a few seconds to scan the QR code, or you can also use the link that I sent in the chat. Okay, and we're done with our Q&A. If you do have further questions, or if you have questions that you can think of later, feel free to send that to our webinars team email address. That's the webinars@eit.edu.au, and we will be forwarding that to Dr. Anna. Okay, and if you'd like to visit our website, again, that's www.eit.edu.au. For those who'd like to visit our office in Perth, we are at 609 Thelma Street in West Perth. And for those who'd like to speak to our course advisors to inquire for one of our courses, those that are in Australia can call us in our 1300 number that you can see right on the screen. And for those who are calling from outside Australia, you can also use the +61 number that you can see on the screen. And again, if you'd like to view our courses and those that are scheduled for the year, you can go to www.eit.edu.au/course schedule. Just a quick question from Richie. When will you be having another webinar that would cover this? We just go ahead and go to our webinars or events page, and you can see our upcoming webinars. As for the modular fabrication one, we have not finalized that yet, but feel free to always visit our events page to see which webinars are upcoming. All right, so I think that's it. Thank you so much, everyone, for participating today. We really had a great interaction with this topic today. And thank you so much, Dr. Anna, for sharing your knowledge and your insights regarding this topic. I hope everyone learned a lot, and see you in our next webinars. Have a great day or night, everyone.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, everyone, for joining. It was a great pleasure to share your experience, my experience, and your experience here today. Thank you so much. Take care, everyone. Have a good day. Good night.